live from the Counterpunch Media mobile studios in Grand Blanc, Michigan. It's time for real lives, real families, real fitness. It's time for Derek Noel Fitness.
Hello and welcome to episode 6. Episode 6 already. I've already been going 6 weeks strong of Derek Noel Fitness. Episode 6. Derek Noel Fitness live. We're going to have a good show today. It's going to be a good time. I got to make sure that camera's not wobbling because it's wobbling pretty bad right now. So, we're going to go set that. Hopefully, yeah, that's perfect. So, no technical difficulties. We are going to rock this out today. First off, I wanted to give a quick shout out to, I actually don't know if I can see it in the camera, but right here, Fit Body Bootcamp here in Grand Blanc. I'm also happy to be an employee here, but it's a good time. I get to film here. It is awesome. I really appreciate it. And we're gonna be talking about that stuff. And I decided to make this next episode after talking about those 5 basic movements last week, which, by the way, feel free to check that out some other time that's not right now, because let's watch this show. And go over some even more basic things. So what you should probably be doing before you even start going to a gym. And that is nutrition. Nutrition's super important, but for all I can talk about protein and carbs and fats and all those other fad diets that are going on right now, the biggest thing is a lot of people don't need to start there. And we're going to get into that in a little bit too. Let's see. We got a nice little thing, being a millennial, as always. If you have any questions about anything I'm going over today, please, please, please feel free to ask. I'm going to be taking periodic breaks to look at the feed to make sure that I can answer your questions. If it's something that's a little bit too long, I will save it for later, and I'll let you know I'm making a video for you. Thank you for tuning in, though, today. I really appreciate it. I wanted to give a shout-out real quick as well to Mr. Brian Brody. He did a 13-hour show to help raise money for his 5th brain surgery in 2.5 years yesterday. He has a GoFundMe. I'm going to make sure that I actually throw the link into the description for this video, so if you want to make any donations to him, he's one of the people who has made all of this possible. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Matt Connerton of Matt Connerton Unleashed, also at IPM Nation, for giving me the opportunity to air this on IPM Nation, which I'm currently number 6 on this week. So we fell a little bit. So please, please, please make sure you are liking and sharing. If you know someone who you think might be wanting to watch this, please make sure to give this a share. Watch parties are a thing now on Facebook, so you can actually start a watch party. I was kind of thinking about doing that with this. I think I'm going to test that in a couple weeks. I just want to see, I'm not sure how it works, so it was kind of more of a, let's not wait, or let's not try that out and mess everything up. So staying same old, we're going to see how that works. As always, please share this, give it a 5-star review if you are listening to the audio after the fact on iTunes. You can also find the audio every Tuesday wherever you listen to your podcast, with the exception of last week, just because there was so much going on with that episode last week. And it was very video heavy and technical, and you would only get so much out of the audio. But this week is going to be very audio heavy, actually. So it's going to be a good time there. So also thanks to everyone who's tuning in to watch this live and everyone who's tuning in later. So I'm actually going to jump right into it. Usually I spend a little more time talking about other things, but I've also been kind of cutting it close on time, and I would rather spend more time answering questions at the end than trying to fit them in within like the last 2 minutes, and especially because I tend to digress. But that's part of the fun, right? So let's start this conversation. I like to call this one Nutrition 101, but this is probably like, you know how they have pre-algebra and then they have algebra? This is more like pre-nutrition. Things that you could do without having to worry about exactly how many protein or grams of protein or carbohydrates or not even knowing what they are. These are going to be the steps that you can take to eat healthier without even having to worry about any of that mumbo jumbo things that you might not know about. Hopefully you get something out of this. It is a very big return to basics episode, or it might be something that you just overlook as time goes on. When I was preparing for this, I was going over some things that I was overlooking because as I work in this stuff all the time, you know, when you start to become more of an expert on something, you kind of forget that not everyone is on the same page as you. So if I'm explaining anything that seems a little bit too advanced, or I'm using any words that you don't understand, which I shouldn't be today, but if I do, please make sure to make a comment to let me know. So, okay. Number 1. Most people start too advanced. It's literally the first thing I have written on my notes. When you start counting macros, and I'm going to use that because a lot of people honestly should at some point. When you start counting macros, a lot of times that's starting too high. There are a lot of habits that you need to build on top of, and it's really all about the minimum effective dose. It's the same as in medicine, is the same as in fitness. So, start small. We're going to start with some small things because those small things are going to lead into a big picture end goal. So first things first, what are you looking to get out of it? We're going to do that goal setting thing that we talked about a few episodes back on when you're first starting out. Set that end goal. Are you trying to gain weight if you are a fairly small person or someone who just wants to be bigger? Or are you looking to lose a lot of weight if you're 400, 500 pounds and you're looking to drop all that weight? Let's set a goal. Doesn't matter what it is because that's where we're going to start. Next up, we're going to start by paying attention to hunger. Hunger is going to be the biggest thing, especially if you start dieting, you start cutting how much food you're eating, how much of everything is going on. That's going to be very, very important, being able to pay attention to it. I actually stole a couple things from a really awesome person. He was my nutrition coach, my own nutrition coach for a little bit. And I'm going to credit him because I am using some of the resources that he gave me. Mr. Alex Macklin, you can find him at Alex Macklin on Instagram, on Facebook. He posts out a ton of awesome material with nutrition. And he is all about those small changes as well, instead of trying to make everything super big and being super stressful. I'm going to talk about the hunger scale that he uses, where we have 1, which is we are eating so that until we're sick, or we're eating until we're hitting that food coma stage. We're eating so much food that we literally can't move. We have to put on our fat pants. People might call it those sweatpants on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is probably the #1 offender for this. And number 10 is you are so hungry, you're ready to eat the entire house. I think all of us have kind of been ready or been on both sides of those scales. The problem is people don't understand what hunger is or where they are on that scale. And before I go into that, he had another resource that I used, which is the difference between, it's a chart with the difference between physical and emotional hunger. So we need to really understand what physical hunger is, because we want to try and separate emotional hunger out of the equation, because that's where a lot of people have issues, is they start to stress eat and eat out of the house at home for no reason. So how can we tell what we are feeling is physical hunger? Let's start there. Number 1, it's gradual. It's not going to hit you like a truck or like a bus or whatever you feel like the analogy being. It's going to grow over time, and you are going to eventually feel hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. Your stomach is going to be growling. You're going to feel really empty, so you can kind of feel like, if you feel your stomach and it's kind of hollow, if you can feel that, or you just feel like there's absolutely nothing in your stomach at all, that's another sign. If you're lightheaded or you have a headache, this actually happened to me last week myself, make sure that you're getting something. It might also be lack of water. Dehydration is another thing. Water is a whole other topic. But you want to make sure that you're getting enough, that you're not getting lightheaded, you're not getting headaches, anything like that. You'll feel really tired because your body is running on fumes because you don't have any fuel. You'll be irritable. The term that is taken off is hangry. You're going to be real hangry. Certain candy company made that a thing with a certain delicious candy bar. You don't want to be hangry. If you are to the point where you are getting like angry that you're so hungry, that's the case. If you feel like you'll just eat anything, anything that's put in front of you, you'll just smash. If you're not feeling guilt for eating what you're eating, if you feel like you can stop when you've eaten a little bit more, those are all signs of physical hunger. Those are what we want to pay attention to. Now let's talk about the other side of it. We have emotional hunger. It's sudden, so all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I just got so hungry all of a sudden, which is usually caused by a trigger. So if something happens, if a stressful moment happens, and I say triggers, it's a cue for a habit. Something that people like to call the monkey brain, and it's literally been in our brain before it evolved into what we are today. It's been there for tens of thousands of years. It is basically the driving force between the subconscious thing. A really good example of this is if you've ever been driving and you all of a sudden don't realize where you are. We are actually going to take a break real quick. So we'll be right back.
You're listening to Derek Noel Fitness here on IPMNation.com/counterpunch. He'll bring the smarts. Now the sweat, well, that's up to you.
And we're back. So, like I was saying, usually, I was actually describing what the monkey brain is. So it's what forms habits in your brain. So if you are driving down the street, and all of a sudden you're just driving and driving and driving, and then all of a sudden you have that moment, and you snap out of it, and you go, wait, where am I? And you're like looking around trying to figure it out. That's what happened, is your brain wants to do things the most effective way possible so it can allocate the least amount of resources to doing that thing. And when you're driving and that happens, your brain is just watching out. Your brain is basically saying, hey, eyes, we're going straight right now, or we've driven this so often we know what the pattern is. Just pay attention, make sure nothing changes. And then all of a sudden, if a car passes you, or if a car comes out in front of you, or you see a deer on the side of the road, then all of a sudden you snap out of it because something has changed. That's an example of the monkey brain. Or if you are studying and all of a sudden you feel like you're getting really hungry like 15 minutes into studying, so you decide to reward yourself with a snack. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, you're hungry again. Your body is trying to go, oh, here's a habit, let's do this thing, here's the reward for doing this thing. It's a really good book to read about this is The Power of Habit. I forget who the author is. I'm sure someone somewhere knows it. Otherwise, I will post in the comments after the show and put it in the show notes when I get to making the show notes to say that, because it is a really, really awesome book to read, and it will shift how you approach different situations and how to change things, which is really cool, because a lot of it is psychology. That feeling doesn't go away. That feeling of hunger doesn't go away even after you've been eating, so you just kind of want to keep going and keep going and keep going. Cravings are a really good sign of it, so if you look at something and you go, oh man, that looks delicious. Oh man, I could really use a cinnamon roll right now. That's an emotional response. That's not a physical response. If you feel shame or a lack of willpower while you're doing it. So if you feel super guilty for eating something when you're eating it, that's probably a sign that it's more of an emotional hunger than a physical hunger. Or if you're just not happy until you cannot move anymore. So you're eating so much food that you are stuffed. That's going to be really big. Hopefully that makes sense. So we have a nice gap of physical versus emotional hunger. So let's go back to that scale. We have that 1 to 10 scale. 10 is give me everything. I want to eat all of the things. Number 1, 1 is you're already sick. You're going into a food coma because you've eaten so much food. Where do we go from there? Where do we actually want to be? Well, if we are at a 10 where we want to be, give me everything to eat, I'm starving all the time forever, we don't want to be there. If we are going, okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm getting that kind of hungry mode, I've been hungry for a little bit, my stomach's growling, I'm a little tired right now, or I feel like I just kind of snapped at that person, maybe I should, eat something. Let's eat. Let's assign that about a 7. So a 7 out of 10. Or then you want to start eating until you're satisfied. So until you feel like, okay, I feel good, I don't feel super heavy. So if you eat until you're mildly uncomfortable, we're going to put that at like an 8. If you eat until you go, oh man, I'm stuffed, that's a 9. If you eat, or we're going backwards, sorry. We're gonna pull that back. If we are at a 2, we are stuffed. So 1 is I'm sick, I'm going into a food coma. 2 is, oh man, I'm pretty full right now. 3 is going to be I'm kind of uncomfortable. 4 should be like, okay, I'm satisfied, but I can still go out and do a physical activity. I feel like I can still do that. Awesome. That's where we want to end eating at. So we want to start eating at a 7, and we want to end eating at a 4. And I'm going to post these also in the comments so that people can see these, and hopefully you save them because they are super, super helpful. Remember, if you have any questions you would like me to answer on this content, because we've talked about the hunger scale a little bit, we've talked about the physical versus emotional. If you have any questions about those things, please post below so I can answer them in a little bit. Make sure you are helping other people, because I guarantee you, if you're asking that question in your head, someone else who's watching is probably wondering the same thing. So we have our hunger scale. We know when we should probably eat something. We know the difference between physical and emotional hunger. Where do we go now? What can I actually do, Derek? Well, we're going to start out fairly simple. I want you to find out, where is the protein on a plate or Tupperware container, whatever you're using to eat? Where is my protein at? For people who eat meat, that can be chicken, that can be beef, that can be pork, that can be lamb, it can be fish of any type, it could be shellfish. If you're a vegetarian, it can be edamame or Ezekiel bread or anything like that. That, just knowing where your protein is going to be really important. You want to make sure that you get protein in every single meal that you eat for a couple reasons. Number 1, it helps build muscle. Number 2, it helps fill you up so you don't feel like you're starving right afterwards. And number 3, it's going to help taper those other 2. What are those other 2? They're carbohydrates and fats. So where is my carbohydrate at is going to be what I want you to ask yourself next. Good examples of carbohydrates. If you're a vegetarian, it's nice and easy because it's mixed in with your protein a lot of times. Like quinoa is really good. Rice is going to be a big one. Potatoes, something that's more clean, more lean. And I'm going to talk about that in a second too. The third one is, where's my fat? Where's my fat at? It can be, if you're eating a little bit of a fattier cut of meat, it could be in the meat. If you are eating a salad, it can be what type of dressing are you having? Are you eating an avocado with it? Things like that are going to be, where's my fat at? And I don't really want to get into precise numbers for what you should be eating, because again, that's going to be a little bit later on, more advanced. First, I just want you to figure out what those 3 things are. And then the fourth one is, where are my vegetables at? Find a vegetable you want to eat. A good way to think about it is eat the rainbow. So try and eat vegetables of every color, because vegetables of different colors have different nutrients. So not everything has to be green. If you eat green things, don't eat green things. You can eat yellow things or red things. I'm not going to list off all the colors, but you can eat all of these awesome, awesome things, and it's amazing. And we're going to make sure that we get all those micronutrients, so those vitamins, those minerals, all those other things that help your body do things. So those are the 4 things that I want you to think about on your plate. What should your plate look like? Let's talk about that. So we have our plate. And actually for this, I'm going to grab my notes so that you can see that picture. I'm going to walk a little closer to the camera. So this thing right here, we have this little circle. It's more of an oval because I'm really bad at drawing. Inside, I have it split into thirds. When you're first starting out, if you go, this is my meat, or this is my protein, I should say. This is my protein, this is my carb, this is my veggie, and then the fat should be kind of sprinkled over the top of it. So if you split your plate into thirds with your protein, your carbohydrate, and your vegetable, you're off to a really, really good start. Just think of that circle as your plate. And I can put that back right now, hopping back. Okay. We're moving, we're going, we're getting through this. Once you figure that out, it's going to be really easy. Now, let's talk about what you should do to make sure that you make a healthy choice at home. First thing I'm going to say is try not to have any junk food in your house, because if it's there, you're going to eat it. You know why you're going to eat it? Because it's the easiest choice. All of those pre-processed, pre-packaged foods are so easy to grab. And the last thing you're going to want to do, and the last thing your body is going to want to do, is go through extra work to make sure that you eat something healthy. So, a good example is, at home, if you have 5 packs of cookies, you're going to eat those 5 packs of cookies. It's just a matter of time. If you don't have them in the house, you have to go out to the store to get them if you're craving it. All of a sudden, that's more work to go out to the store to grab it than it might be to grab something that you already have prepared. And that's going to be big. When you have something that you can grab on the go, you're going to be more inclined to get that. So if you don't have any junk food in your house and you have something ready to go, so you just have a Tupperware container, or in my case, I have 3 big Tupperware containers that I like to do. I like to grab things from each thing, and then I can just go bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, just put it right on that plate, and I'm good to go. That's easy for me, because then I can just throw it in the microwave real quick, and I'm done in like 5 minutes. If you have to cook everything every single day, all of a sudden you're slaving over the stove for 20 to 30 minutes. You have to try and put everything together. If you have a spouse or kids, you have to try and make sure that what you're eating is something that they also like. So now you're stressed about that. All of a sudden, oh yeah, let's just go out to eat. So all of a sudden just taking them and going out to a restaurant is a lot easier than just making something to go, which is why meal prep is super important. And I'm not saying you have to do everything, but if you have rice prepared so you don't have to spend 30 minutes cooking rice every day, and then all you have to do is grill some chicken, throw some chicken on the grill for like 10 minutes, you're set. Because then all of a sudden, hopefully if you're grilling, it's a nice day out, but you're making better decisions. And that's going to be the big thing, is just making good decisions, being smart about it. Hopefully all of this stuff has helped out. I see your comments, Ilona. I'm laughing on the inside right now. Anyways, hopefully this is clearing the air for some people of what they should actually be doing. The next thing, once we are done with these things, so I have my plate looking good, I have my meals prepped, so I can just grab the stuff and I can be good. I don't have any junk food in my house. By the way, if you keep chips in your house for your kids, I like to tell people, and granted I don't have kids, so it's probably easy for me to say, Derek, but if you wouldn't eat it, or you don't want to eat it because it's not healthy for you, why are you feeding it to your kids? Because it's easy? Your kids look at what you eat. They don't look at what they want to eat. So if you eat healthy, or you make it a habit before they're old enough to question you about it, and I know 2-year-olds can question everything, but if you're making those decisions for them and you're showing them the healthy way to eat, that's all they know. That's how they grow up. If you're making a decision to make healthy choices and you're not keeping those things in your house, they're going to cave, because eventually they're going to get so hungry they will just eat something anyways. Again, it goes to the emotional thing. A lot of kids have emotional responses to foods rather than physical responses to being hungry. So keep that in mind too if you're on the fence of like, well, I can't throw this stuff away because my kids like it. There's my counters to that. Sorry if that's throwing anyone under the bus. I didn't mean to do that. But keep that in mind whenever you're making those decisions for what you should and shouldn't buy. Eat slowly is going to be my next point, and it's actually going to be my last one. Eating slowly, and I know I'm super guilty of it. I worked in restaurants for a long time, so I've gotten myself to the point where I will go eat a couple bites, run away, go do something, come back, and just eat, and that's how my body is conditioned to eat, which honestly isn't the best, but you know, I'm a human too. Slowing yourself down when you're eating is going to help you out a lot, because it takes a little bit for your stomach and your brain to talk to each other, to be like, whoa, let's pump the brakes. I am really full right now. So by slowing it down, you are enabling yourself to keep better control of where you are on that food scale, on that hunger scale. Because knowing where you are on that will be a good key factor of helping you lose weight and body fat automatically without having to track anything, which is awesome. There's actually a study done that I think it's elite athletes, and I'll have to do the research again because it was a long time ago that I saw this study. But elite athletes chew their food when they put it in your mouth, because fun fact, the digestive system starts when you put things in your mouth. Saliva helps break things down. That's why if you put like a saltine cracker in your mouth and you leave it there for a little bit, it just kind of melts into nothing, is because the saliva in your mouth starts breaking things down. When you're chewing, it helps break things down more. So you're already starting that digestive process in the mouth. So elite athletes, people who are in really good shape, will chew their food an average of 47 times. The average American, they found out, does it, I believe it was like 28 times. So 28 swallow between bites. What that says is elite athletes take twice as long to eat their food because they're more in tune with what their bodies do. So they're chewing slower. They're helping break that food down even more to make it easier for your body to digest and to process into energy, so that way you can actually function without being super lethargic and full. Make sure you're eating slowly. So let's run through these real quick because we're going to be wrapping this up soon. Going into Q&A time. Remember, please ask your questions below. We're running short on time now, so I may or may not have to make extra videos. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But let's wrap this up. Nutrition, pre-nutrition 101. Most people start too advanced. Start small. Small changes, big result. Start by paying attention to hunger. That difference between physical and emotional hunger is going to be huge. Apply that to the hunger scale. 10 is give me everything. I'm super hungry. Number 1 is I'm sick. I am so full right now. Ask yourself, where's my protein? Where's my carb? Where are my veggies? Where are my fats? Make sure healthy foods are the easiest choice for you to make in your house. Fruits are really easy. It's a lot easier to grab a banana that's right there on your counter versus something that's in your fridge that's not good for you. Make sure your plate is looking good. 1/3 protein, 1/3 carb, 1/3 vegetable, whatever vegetable you want. And make sure you're eating your food slowly. Hopefully, these tips have helped you out. If not, let me know so I can help you out. Eventually, I will make videos that are more advanced, that go into proteins and carbs and fats, but I just wanted to start out really easy. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone.